Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Saco City Council meeting for Monday, September 8th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Would like to make note of all councilors present this evening with Interim City Manager Emily Cole Prescott. And would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That now takes us to item 4 this evening, and that is general, and there is nothing under that for tonight. Item number 5 is committee correspondence to council. Are there any council members wishing to speak? Councilor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several things to speak about. One for age-friendly Saco. They are making progress on selecting their executive director. The board will be meeting with the finalists this week. So that's some good progress. So we'll probably hear about that very soon. Saco Main Street, there's a couple of things this Saturday from noon to 4 p.m. There will be a tail-wagging fun day for Bark in the Park. There will be, and that'll be at the Fairfield School. There will be vendors, food trucks, a K9 demo, and a pup costume contest. So that should be very great, and people will have a good time. I would also encourage everyone to take a walk through Riverfront Park. Saco Main Street and volunteers added flowers and a fantastic mural to a beautiful place during the Labor Day weekend. Several visitors were excited about the additions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Gunn?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In Historic Preservation Commission news, I want to take a privilege and take a moment to thank Thomas Hardy, who has been a long-time member of the commission. Tom is unfortunately moving down the road a little bit, and we're going to miss him tremendously. He's been with the commission now for quite a number of years. Very much a conscientious, hard-working member of the commission that perfectly balanced the needs to maintain the aesthetic qualities of the downtown with personal property rights. It's definitely a hard line to walk sometimes, and he hit it perfectly. And as HPC has expanded its portfolio to consider and look into historic preservation itself with the Living History Project and things of that nature, he's been a very enthusiastic member of the commission. And I will say, in terms of being conscientious, when we were coming out of COVID, we had a couple of meetings where it was difficult to get a quorum, and even those meetings where we kind of had to shrug our shoulders and say, oh, we got to do this another time because we can't get people to show up, he always was there, always enthusiastic, always ready to offer his input. Just an all-around great fella, and we're going to miss him tremendously, and hopefully he's out there watching. Tom, we'll see you when you get back, whenever that may be.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone. Moving on to item number 6 this evening, that is public comment. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Delano. I live at 111 Elm Street, and I'm here to just kind of celebrate Tom Hardy as well. I'm a member of the Historic Commission and also a neighbor to Tom, and I always look for good people who are honest and see kind of the big picture in decisions. Tom is that kind of guy, and I think he just deserves to be celebrated and acknowledged, and Joe, I thank you for doing so.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm Beth Johnston. I live at 62 Pleasant Street in Saco. I'm also here to reiterate good things and appreciation for Tom Hardy. I don't actually know how long he's been on the HPC. Does anyone, can you? your microphone?
Thank you. I want to say 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was roughly my guess. I have been appointed within, a year and a half ago, I think, by Mayor McPhail to the commission as well, and I've been interested in being on it for a very long time. So the commission is made up of, if I'm mistaken, let me know, 10 members, but only half of them are actually considered voting members unless someone's not present, and then the alternates move up to be voting members. So I've been to meetings that I have not actually been able to vote at, which is fine. It's a learning process, like everything else, a learning curve. But I have very much appreciated Tom's thoughtful, conscientious contributions and votes. I actually met him, I think about the same time he moved to Saco, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was. I met him not through the Historic Preservation Commission, but through my store, former store. He came in as a customer and was just a really nice human being, very enthusiastic about the area that he was now living in and the historic content of it, so to speak. And then later, I saw him over time a little bit here and there, but then later when I actually was appointed to the commission, I've really followed what he had to say. And again, I think that he will really be missed on that commission. And I regret the fact that he won't be there anymore, but I also understand that he has other places to go and other people to see. So I just wanted to really reinforce that I think he is a very conscientious human being, and I hope that we'll get someone else, I'm sure we will, to replace him, who has the same kind of conscientious, realistic, but conscientious approach to historic preservation, which is, after all, what this commission is. It's historic preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, not seeing anyone seeking recognition. Moving on to item number 7, that is the approval of the minutes. And the approval of the minutes is for August 25th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Edwards. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to item number 8 this evening, that is consent items. Item number A is the confirmation of the mayor's appointment to the Park and Rec Advisory Committee of Catherine Polini. Item B is the confirmation of the mayor's reappointment to the Park and Rec Advisory Committee for Sue Spath and Tim Harder. Item C is the confirmation of the mayor's reappointment to the Arts Commission of Laura Bransetter, Marie O'Brien, and Stefan Normantis. Item D is the confirmation of the mayor's reappointment to the Planning Board of Joyce Leary Clark. Item E is to confirm the mayor's reappointment to the Coastal Waters Commission, and that is Thomas Casamas. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hewitt. Any discussion or movement of any items? Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to item number 9, and that is action items this evening. Item A is one reading for the amendment to the Pepperell Park Ad Hoc Redesign Committee, and that is Councilor Hewitt.
On August 11th, 2025, the City Council approved the creation of a Pepperell Park Ad Hoc Redesign Committee consisting of the City of Saco Mayor, 1 member from Council, 1 member from Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 member from Saco Conservation Committee, and 5 at-large members from Saco, which will be appointed by the mayor. The purpose of this requested amendment is to update the committee membership to include 1 alternate member. Be it ordered that the City Council approve the amendment to the Pepperell Park Ad Hoc Redesign Committee and add 1 alternate member to the committee. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hewitt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any questions or discussion on this item? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item B, that is the second and final reading for the budget amendment request, inventory, analysis, initial outreach to help fund a local comprehensive beach management plan, and that is Counselor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The City of Saco has received a proposal for inventory, analysis, and initial outreach to help fund a local comprehensive beach management plan. The cost of this inventory analysis initial outreach step, the first step of this process, has been proposed at $46,000. To move this initiative forward, $46,000 could be used from unassigned fund balance for this project through a budget amendment process. The goal of the overall local comprehensive beach management plan is to provide a single consolidated document which advises the City of Saco on short and long-term conceptual strategies to maintain existing coastal shoreline with minimal loss of private property, public infrastructure, and public resources, while providing guidance for long-term partnerships with private property owners and county, state, and federal agencies. If this initial step were to be funded, the amount needed to complete the plan is estimated at $141,000. City staff plan to apply for a community action grant through the Community Resilience Partnership to offset the total plan cost and report back to City Council once additional information is available about the status of the grant submission. Be it ordered that the City Council establish an appropriation of $46,000 from unassigned fund balance to fund the inventory analysis initial outreach phase 1 for a local comprehensive beach management plan. I move to approve the order.
Thank you. Counselor Berman has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion or questions on this item? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. That's loud. As I indicated at our prior meeting, I had reservations about the continued use of unassigned fund balance, and we haven't really been provided with an update that I see in the packet. So while I support this, I still have reservations about the use of those funds. I think Councilor Hatch had indicated at the last meeting that there was potential savings in the capital fund. So I'd be an advocate of removing these funds or allocating the funds from capital as opposed to unassigned.
Interim Administrator Prescott.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We were able to get some draft materials from our audit firm. We had another conversation with our audit firm today. And working with our interim finance director, we were able to get an amount in the unassigned fund balance. Again, this is draft audited at this point, so it's not final audited numbers, but there's $12,388,388 in unassigned fund balance. Our interim finance director also went back and looked at the use of fund balance for fiscal year 25, as well as the council transfers that have already been acted upon. So this is a good number based on what we have today.
Councilor Johnston?
So if I'm understanding this, it's the opinion of the finance director that we would be within the surplus above the 16.87% to allocate these funds.
Yes, we are fine with allocating these funds.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Berman?
Yeah, just really 2 points of discussion on a different topic. One is as I read the plan, I see it already in here in a couple of places, but I just want to really spell it out really clearly, and maybe the city administrator and director of public works who's in the back can just make sure that it's really critical that TIG and Bond reach out to the county and work and fully understand the county's efforts and integrate that into our plan. It is, the county is mentioned in a couple places, but what we definitely don't want to do is fund these engineers as well as, you know, their partner, Woods Hole, in redoing the work that the county has already done. That would not be an efficient use of our funds. What we do want is to understand how the county plan is enacted at the local level and how we can enact and build us up to Category G here, and what responsibilities we will have, you know, vis-a-vis the county's plans. So I just want to make sure that's really clear.
Good evening, Council. That's exactly what we plan to do. One of the first things we'll do is have a meeting with Ty and Bond as well as the county to, you know, go over the efforts that they are doing, and this will take and build on those efforts.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And then just maybe the other piece is just to really make sure as we progress through the phases that there's, I think, the weather is dynamic. I think UNE is collecting a lot of data. I think the Army Corps is going to continue collecting data, and just to make sure that we have a plan to update our local plan as those steps emerge. It's just a really dynamic period for the Saco Coast right now.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Well, I'll just state that I still don't approve of the process that we're using here, because we are still in conflict with code. But I also want to be flexible here with an understanding, as I stated previously, that council will take up an RFP or a process to look towards the approval of a different auditing firm in the coming year. So with that said, yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to item C, that is one reading for the amendment to lease agreement with the Biddeford Saco Old Orchard Beach Transit, BSOB, and that is Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. During the recent Planning Board review process, the Planning Board and city staff identified the need for a decommissioning plan for installation of EV chargers to support existing BSOOB operations. The purpose of this lease amendment is to incorporate the decommissioning plan requirements. Be it ordered that the City Council amend the existing lease agreement with Biddeford Saco Old Orchard Beach Transit to incorporate the lease agreement amendment included in the September 8th, 2025 City Council meeting packet. I move to approve the order.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Edwards. Any discussion or questions on this item? Counselor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Just a point of clarification. I think as we discussed this before, it was important for us to have a decommissioning plan in that lease once those chargers are installed. We've had prior history of issues with a windmill that was there forever, and so I thought it was, not just me, but a lot of folks felt it was very appropriate with the agreement of BSOOB Transit to have this decommissioning plan in place. So I think it's, from my perspective, a very positive element of that lease agreement.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to item D, that is a final reading for the Technical Design and Construction Standards Manual, TDCSM update, and that is Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. City staff from Public Works, Water Resource Recovery, and Planning have been drafting critical updates to the city's Technical Design and Construction Standards Manual, or the TDCSM. This manual, originally adopted by City Council on March 22, 2021, details the city's standards for streets, drains, and sewer systems. This update adds pump station details and requirements, municipal street lighting requirements, traffic signal standards, and a list of standard conditions of approval and requirements, along with updated forms for compliance purposes. There are several reserve sections for future standards to be incorporated. Recommended edits from the Planning Board review are now included in the draft attached to this item commentary. Be it ordered that the City Council hereby approves the Technical Design and Construction Standards Manual as amended and included in the September 8, 2025 City Council meeting packet. I move to approve the order.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion or question on this item? Counselor Berman?
Really just, I learned a lot by reading it, and I think it's a really important effort that brings a lot of clarity in my mind. And I just really want to thank city staff for doing it. I think it's going to make life easier. And it's also just kind of remarkable to me that this actually, I think, makes some changes and clarification for the process, but we've heard nothing from the public, and it was really done without council directive. And so I'm just really appreciative that city staff are taking this on, or keeping an eye on these things, and are really trying to make the process of developing here in Saco easier and more straightforward. So just a thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. Yeah, again, likewise, I know I've said this previously, but I want to thank the effort staff has put into this. This originally kind of came up in tandem with the zoning ordinance revision that we undertook 5 years ago or thereabouts. And specifically, I know that the city engineer, Joe Laveria, kind of really, along with Emily Cole Prescott and former director Fox, did a lot of heavy lifting on this. And it was something that, I had kind of been advocating for without knowing how to advocate for it, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, it was smart of them to understand to take all these rules or policies and put them into one concise document that not only a developer can easily understand, but us and the public can consume in a easy manner. I also have read it several times, and I think it's very concise and easy to understand. And then with it being an update, I also just want to thank that we're continually updating things, because as we've seen throughout times, hasn't always happened. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item E, and that is the first reading, proposed updates to Administrative Code, Chapter 4, Article 5, Departments and Divisions, and that is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On August 25th, the city staff presented proposed updates to Chapter 4, Article 5, Departments and Divisions of City Ordinance, along with a crosswalk document for reference. The purpose of this initiative is to update the ordinance to reflect current operations. As mentioned during the August 25th new business review, this proposed amendment has been shared with senior staff, whose edits have been incorporated into this document. For reference purposes, the link to the current code section is available at ecode360.com. Staff recommends the City Council review the information and ask any questions. Be it ordered that the City Council, Saco City Council approves the first reading of the updates to the Administrative Code, Chapter 4, Article 5, Departments and Divisions, and further moves to schedule its public hearing on September 22nd, 2025. I move to approve the order.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Edwards. Any discussion or comments on the item? Counselor Berman?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've looked at this a couple of times, and I actually think the text is really clear and straightforward, and I really appreciate that. I do have one question on the text, though, and that's I'm a little unclear on the distinction between a division and department, and I don't know if now is the appropriate time to answer that, or if that should come later and in the document. I do have a couple of concerns about the tree, though, the 412 administrative service tree. And what I noticed is that when I looked through the text and tried to compare that with the tree, there are a number of named roles that just don't appear. The city solicitor, public health, division of tax collection, city historian, plumbing inspector, electrical inspector, tax collector, health administrator. So some divisions are missing, some named roles are missing. And I think part of what I would like about this is I think this is designed to bring our current practice in line with code and really to put those two things together. And it'd be much easier for me to track if each named department or division appeared on the tree, and each role in the city that code required could then appear on the tree with the name of the person currently filling that role. And that would just make it really easy for both me, I think, and the public to understand how we were enacting code and in our current state of compliance or not, and what roles were left to be filled. So I'm kind of hoping to see if maybe we can update that tree prior to our final reading.
Okay. Interim Administrator?
Thank you. That's a very good comment. We will update it. I do want to note that we have received a memo from Councilor Hatch, which will be incorporated, comments from that will be incorporated into the next draft. I also received comments from Councilors Gunn and Edwards, so appreciate that, sending that to me by the 5th. But we will update the org chart. One thing that's probably a best practice is we can certainly add names of who's filling the positions, but we'll probably do that not within the ordinance. That way, when those positions get filled, we don't need to come back for an ordinance amendment for the named person in that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gunn, then Councilor Johnston. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Berman, were you done?
Just to respond to that, I think that's totally appropriate to not put the names in the ordinance, but the tree could be used to fill in those names on the website, and that would help us keep track. Thank you.
Councilor Gunn, then Councilor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just a little bit of a piggyback on Councilor Berman's comments. I think probably when we get to can't think tonight, the public hearing or the final reading, it might necessitate basically having to turn the chart basically horizontally to get all those positions in. Also, so we can still read it though, but given the nature of the game, though, I think it might be easier. So we basically, when you get to that on your screen, or if it's a piece of paper, it basically ends up being like this. So it's a little easier to see. As I said, I shared my comments with the mayor and the city interim city administrator last week, and essentially, stylistically, it was more just to inform the council. It was to sort of eliminate the his, hers with a simple theirs, though, because it's less cumbersome, and certainly updated for 2025. And also just the one edit I had was in, let's see here, it was in under City Administration 413, letter A, was that the city administrator shall serve as the chief administrator officer and is appointed by the mayor with the approval of city council. And the reason I wanted that wording was it's the only position currently where the mayor nominates and the council approves. I wanted the mayor's agency to be recognized in that section right there. So I figured it was certainly to have the verbiage, the mayor appoints, council approves, because certainly the council cannot organically appoint a city administrator over a mayor. I think it appropriately captures the essence. So that's the only actual physical edit I had offered. And I'm looking at it. I guess the only question I would have, and again, more stylistically, the placement of, again, this might just because of size limitations, but the placement of the deputy city administrator bubble off to the side with their portfolio underneath is a separate thing, as opposed to being directly underneath the city administrator with the line for their authority being kind of going out to the right. I think might be a little bit more appropriate, because based on the verbiage and our certainly understanding of the position, while the regular portfolio of the deputy city administrator is assessing code enforcement, economic, and planning, they can be assigned other functions. By having them directly under the city administrator, it would show that they are in that tree as opposed to kind of being off to the side. So again, more of a stylistic thing. I don't think it changes the course of history, but I think given that it does show in our chart that the city administrator does empower the deputy city administrator to act as a deputy pretty much at their discretion, I think is fully captured by having, again, directly under the city administrator, and then having the city administrator's, deputy city administrator's regular portfolio of those 4 positions kind of being off to the side to demonstrate that, well, functionality, for lack of a better term. I really should have drank coffee before. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Councilor Johnston?
Thank you. Maybe I should have drank coffee. So I appreciate the work, that's been done by staff to address, the structural department changes that have occurred over the years. And forgive me for being tardy with my changes. I actually didn't finish my deep dive on this until this afternoon. I guess even in adulthood, I'm consistent to how I was as a student. But, I think for context purposes, for the public, it's important to understand why we're here. And so Charter Section 5.02 grants council the authority by ordinance to create, change, or abolish office departments and agencies. This hasn't, unfortunately, occurred for many years. And again, I'm sure, as people come and go, councilors come and go, that's why these things fall by the wayside. But certainly for someone like myself that values defined structure and roles, it's been frustrating for really my entire tenure here. And, as we know, code can't be inconsistent with charter. And this came up quite frequently during our grievance petition meetings with my fellow councilors. I'm sure they probably got sick and tired of hearing me say it. But regardless, I'm grateful for being here now. And, I think overall, the changes that staff have presented currently represent the organization well. Some of the things, I don't think might sound like a lot, but I don't think it's all that drastic, the suggested or recommended changes I would have for council. So in Chapter 4, Article 4, Section 4-1I, which is not included in your packet, it's part of the rest of Chapter 4, okay, so you can find it on E-code. I states that department heads are to be appointed by the city administrator and confirmed by city council. That's all department heads. Historically speaking, it's been all over the place, depending on who the city administrator was. We've been consistent with what's required by law, state law, as to what gets confirmed by council. My recommendation, again, to align this and make this consistent with the rest of Chapter 4, would be that 14-13B, the Deputy City Admin of Community Development, would be confirmed. We'd use the same language that is, forgive me, I don't have it directly in front of me, but appointed by the city administrator and confirmed by the city council. Same with 4-15, the city clerk. 4-16, the plumbing, the code officer is already confirmed. That's a state law requirement. But I would expand that to include the plumbing and electrical inspector. On a side note to this, I guess we could come back, but I'll state it here. I'm curious how our code squares with state law, because when I read the Title 30A, Section 2601A, and Title 38, Section 441, there's just discrepancy, and I'm not saying we're in the wrong, I'm just seeking clarity as to, is our process the same as what the state has in statute? Because the state says that code officers are to be appointed annually by the city council. Communications director, or 4-14 communications director, 4-18 economic development director, 4-20 facilities director, 4-22, again, this is under the fire department. We have emergency management division, which to Councilor Berman's point, he was unclear about division or director, but based on the rest of Chapter 4, it's clear that it's a director, and this is also appointed by council. Now, the current situation we made several years ago was that it's the fire chief, which again, got no problem with that, but that might not always be the case. In past years, it wasn't the case. The city might grow to a point where we determine that we need a specific individual to just handle emergency management. So I think we need to figure out how to make this not be in conflict with, I think it's 420, current code, I don't have it in front of me. I think it's 4-22 in the current code that, actually it's a separate article in the current code that makes the emergency management section separate. So we probably should review that. And then 4-23, the HR director, 4-24, the IT director, 4-26, Parks and Rec director, 4-27, city planner, and then we have 4-28, public health director, which if we're going to keep it as it's in the current code, we probably should follow along and have council confirm these appointments. Though I do have questions about that whole department or division, whatever we're calling it. I know why it exists. I'm, based on my reading of it, not sure we have anybody with the credentials to actually fulfill that role. I know in the past, and this is many years ago, it used to be an actual doctor, someone that had those credentials. So those are the sections that I'm suggesting that council, again, administrator appoints, council confirms, and then again, my thinking here is that if city council is responsible to our citizens, we should have some level of ownership in the appointment of the individuals that lead departments. They're all important. And then additionally, under 4-22, which again is the fire department, we've moved the harbor master, and which again, personally, I don't have a problem with it being placed there, but based on my reading of state statute Title 38, Chapter 1, Section 1, it appears as though this is an appointment by the city council directly, which is consistent with many other communities that are around us, as I understand it. And again, I didn't check with all of them, but I did check with a few. So that would, based on state law, again, my reading of it, it appears as though that would be an appointment, not just a confirmation, but appointment by the municipal officers, which again, based on my experience with state law, municipal officers versus officials, municipal officers is the elected body. So I guess we should check with legal on that and see if that, again, is fine, which that opens up another conversation, I guess. Do we want to have some level of further ownership, even if it doesn't conflict with state law, into that arena? I think it's become a rather important department. And let's see, other things. Under 14-19, which is the EDF fund or the Economic Development Fund, I know why it's there historically, but I think it would be better located in Chapter 15. So it kind of just got, when they created the EDF fund, they looked for some place to put it, and that's where it ended up, but it doesn't fit into our structure here. It's just stating the creation of a fund, which, again, to me, seems like adding that to Chapter 15, the funds, as a standalone portion would, if anybody's looking for what it is, and that's been the problem in the past, people have, citizens like, what is this? And I've had to tell them, well, you have to go to Chapter 4 to find out, what governs that fund, excuse me. So again, I think that if council should consider that, and then and if I'm going too fast, please tell me, because I tend to do that. 4-25 is currently appointed by the CA, or city administrator, and confirmed by council. And this is the city solicitor. Again, at the grievance committee, we've had discussions. I know Councilor Gunn and I had some in-depth discussions about changing this to a mayoral appointment, which is the way it was in the city prior to 1993. That requires a charter change. I just wanted to get it out here that this is something that's kind of floating out in the ether. And had we met the time requirements, I know myself and Councilor Gunn considered bringing that forward to the body. But I do think in the meantime, when you read through that, and not saying that it's a bad thing to have a city solicitor for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, but the fact that there's no language included in this where there's a review period, I would just say consistently, it sounds like most things in government's we're on 3 years. I think that maybe a review period or a contract length of a 3-year period would be beneficial to not just us sitting here today, but the future city councilors and city staff. They're kind of like, well, how do we get rid of a person? How do we find somebody new? It seems like this was an appropriate place to consider that. 4-29D, it's language about a plumbing inspector. It seems out of place. Like, I honestly don't understand how I got placed in that section, which again, that goes back to the health, I forget the term, but the one in charge of health. So to me, it seems like it would make sense to add that to the code section or division. And then just, I guess lastly, as I looked at this late this afternoon, and I'm not making this motion because I want to be able to discuss it, but just process-wise, I considered approving the first reading, right, here tonight, but potentially tabling the public hearing, the scheduling of the public hearing, because when I look at the rest of Chapter 4, there are other areas that to me, it seems like a more holistic approach would be to address those other areas that could potentially have changes. And just off the top of my head, 4-2 makes mention of a warrants committee. There hasn't been a warrants committee in the city of Saco since the early 1990s. So why have that language if it's not there? It just adds to confusion. 4-11, I might have some changes there. Again, Article 6, which addresses the emergency management. I don't know if there's any needed updates, but based on the amendments, it hasn't been updated for 25 years. It seems to me that maybe we should review that now, particularly now that the fire chief themselves is in that role. Article 7 is where we lay out those boards and committees. And 4-24 is the planning board. And part of that grievance petition, we will be taking up potential changes to the planning board. So instead of kind of, approving this code, then coming back and then opening the code up again, it just seems to me like it would make sense to kind of hold off on this. Or at least, like I said, I have no problem approving the first reading, but just delay that public hearing until we've kind of addressed these other issues and just one big package, bring it to the public. And additionally, under Article 7 is 4-39, which is the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And as I mentioned several weeks ago, we have a current situation where charter requires all appointed members to be voters, the citizens or the city of Saco. And we at the board level have had and councils have approved, which honestly, if we had gone back and looked at our prior council rules of orders of business, everybody was supposed to be 18, but regardless of that, we've had a student advisory board member, which has been a massive benefit, in my opinion, to that body. So, I have suggested at our last meeting last week that we amend the code to allow for a student body advisory member that's not appointed by council, would be appointed by the director. The reason I believe that's how it should be is that, again, you have to go through the process of appointment by, number one, you got to change code, or a charter rather, and we could be in a year plus without a student member, but also the student ages out And so to me, it just makes sense to have a director. Oftentimes, they're current Parks and Rec employees or summer employees that, they come up through, and it's beneficial for programming and whatnot. So to me, it makes sense to just allow that be a director appointment. They're more likely to be able to find a student to begin with. So I guess that's all I have at this moment. If anybody has questions or want me to repeat myself.
Councilor Johnston, if you wanted to make that table motion, we would be able to possibly bring this back as a workshop and maybe address all of those questions prior to getting a public hearing on the agenda?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, but the rest of the council has. My thinking was that I was just going to approve the first reading and then move to table the public hearing until a later date.
Yep.
But
And then outside, once we complete the department and the divisions, we could bring a workshop forward for the rest of Chapter 4 to address all those other questions and pull out the items. And I agree with you, and the Student Advisory Body is a program that we've kind of been throwing around for the last couple of years and just haven't stuck down and done it, and now it actually is the perfect opportunity. So that is something that I would like to work on. Hopefully working with possibly TA, and they can get some credits or something like that as a benefit. But yes, okay, so you want to move forward with this tonight?
yeah, does anybody else?
Yeah. And first off, just want to check with City Administrator, do you have everything that you need from Councilor Johnston?
I can send all this to you.
It would be very helpful, thank you. As far as the tabling motion or not, if you approve the first reading, I just recommend that you pick a public hearing date, maybe a couple months out or a month out, rather than tabling it. That causes some confusion for the public, or just table it as a whole item, and we will bring it back appropriately.
Bring it in the next motion as an amendment and change the date?
So you can, for tonight, if you want to approve the first reading, I would just change the date of the public hearing to farther out to give us time to incorporate some of these changes and have that workshop. Or if the preference is to table it, I would just table the item in full and we can bring it back with some amendments.
Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. I'm going to, listening to this, I'm going to probably land on Deputy Administrator's final comment there. I'm just thinking that it might be a good idea to table the whole item, because if I go to a first reading, I would prefer personally to see all of the input redlined into the existing document. And I know you're getting commentary from multiple directions, so, and some of it's consistent, because Councilor Johnston, we may be separated by a generation, but you're giving your comments, and a lot of what you've said were in mine. The appoint and approve language I had pointed out and all of those issues. So I think there's going to be some duplication. If it's not too cumbersome, and if that is in fact the direction we go, is it possible to get the redlined information put in, and then in parentheses at the end of the comment put the councilor's last name that proposed it, so we can all get a sense of who's trying to push what initiatives? And I think in some cases you're going to have multiple councilor names on the same theme. I think that would be helpful. So my personal opinion, one of 7, is tabling the entire item, giving staff time to pull all these comments together, get a redlined version to us for a first reading. I think for me would be much cleaner, but that's just my opinion.
Councilor Gunn?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As far as approaching the next steps here, while it would be certainly clean to take Councilor Hatch's approach, at the same time, referring to Councilor Johnston's comments, I'm of the opinion that maybe, because we've had a couple of councilors already, Councilor Johnston and myself have obviously given our opinions on any structural changes Councilor Berman has too. I think it might work that, if we pass this tonight, it goes to a second reading and a public hearing. In between then, that's where we could have what Councilor Hatch was proposing, which is the red line versions up to about maybe, again, like the Thursday or Friday before the meeting when the agenda comes out. Therefore, we can all be on the same page of what we're all proposing, and then that will be in the public for the public to digest, so they can come if they want to offer their input. And then when that's finished, to get more into some of the cleanup stuff that we have to do that Councilor Johnston mentioned, as well as looking at the feasibility of having the code meet the charter, where the charter is not silent on the issues of appointment. We could do that, by going then to the next stop of a workshop. That's the way I think I would approach it. And certainly to circle back to his points, yes, I mean, I know it gives Councilor Johnston heartburn when the code is saying something that the either it's either in opposition to the charter, or I was going through this weekend frustrated when I find that the charter is exactly silent on some of this stuff and that the code is pretty much being the law itself without any charter to back it up, which truthfully, if we approve this as it is, we would essentially have to go back next year, and some of the charter revisions that I had in mind would essentially, again, sort of wagon before the cart, would have to codify what we're already going to code in the code itself. So if there's anything that we can get in a workshop where we don't have to do it as a charter, I think that would leave us in a better position legally, but at the same time, I'm still open to my charter revisions next year that's going to codify a couple of things. For example, and I'll just throw this out to everybody because councilors here have been here for quite a while, councilor candidates out there, I certainly hope are watching. I went back to check on the language when it came to sort of interim versus acting city administrator, and what has become the norm in the last couple cycles is actually not reflected in charter. So both our code and our charter are out of whack, where we've allowed the city administrator to basically designate someone as the acting city administrator, that is to say their deputy on a day-to-day basis. The creation of a deputy city administrator essentially codifies that, but the charter doesn't say language one way or the other, so the code pretty much is creating the law that otherwise is not reflected in the charter. So it just gives you an idea of just how you want to make sure we're all on the same page for this, because last night I went and checked, and all the language that is there for the acting city administrator has nothing to do with any of the staff that has been designated for that role in the last several years. It actually pretty closely resembles what we have referred to as the interim city administrator. That is someone the council appoints and hires in the interim, not acting. So it just goes to show you how we get, sometimes we get tongue-tied on these things and we think we're talking about one thing, and I thought I was talking about one thing for all these months. So definitely things that we can talk about in workshop and also get the council ready for next year's charter changes, essentially, that we're going to offer to essentially codify what we've already been doing. So again, I think going to a second reading, getting it all on the table first, letting the public have a hatch at it, and then going to a workshop about some of that cleanup stuff, I think might be the best way about going about this. Thank you.
Councilor Berman.
I think I'm going to disagree with Councilor Gunn, which is rare, but maybe needed here. I'm concerned, given the number and nature of the changes suggested and the amount of information coming from different sides, I actually think it'd be really useful for us to see and be able to discuss another version at a first reading before we bring it to a public hearing and second reading, just to make sure the changes that we want to see are indeed in there and that we've come to some agreement on them. So I think it would be really prudent to table this at this time, and therefore I want to make that motion. I move to table this until such time as the changes suggested can be incorporated.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's been a motion to table by Councilor Berman, second by Councilor Hatch. Roll call vote. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Okay, this will be brought back at a later date. Okay, that completes the agenda items this evening, the action items. Item number 10 is the administrative update.
So the City of Saco has filed a grant application for the Community Resilience Partnership. This is referenced on the budget amendment you were reviewing tonight for the Phase 1 of the beach management plan. The grant amount we applied for was $75,000 with a city match estimated amount of $75,000. We'll share more info as it becomes available, and I want to thank members of the Shoreline Commission for helping us get support letters in a quick turnaround. Our annual employee appreciation event will be held on Thursday, September 18th between 11 and 1:30. Lunch, desserts, and drinks will be provided. There will be raffles and giveaways. And the city offices will be closed during that time to allow for customer-facing employees the opportunity to participate, and we appreciate your understanding. And then bittersweet news. We know that our city engineer is retiring, Joe LaVerrier. Public Works would like to announce Joe LaVerrier's retirement from the City of Saco today, Monday, September 8th. He began providing engineering consulting services in 1988 for Saco and through 2015. In 2015, he accepted the city engineer position at Public Works on September 8th, 2015, actually, so exactly 10 years. Over these years, we all know he provided great planning board reviews, overseeing design and construction of many roadway and utility projects, including design and construction of Spring Hill Road and Millbrook Business Park, a large focus on sewer separation projects, treatment plant and pump station upgrades, the Route 1 sewer extension, Industrial Park Road Goose Fair Brook stream crossing, Camp Ellis sheet pile wall design, build project, Lincoln Market and Irving infrastructure improvement, and then overseeing the design build of the current Public Works facility, along with countless other improvements throughout the city that we may be above ground or below ground, so we may not really see his true impression on this city. Joe also played a key role in developing the city's technical design and construction standards manual, GIS inventory and updates, street opening permit process, MS4 stormwater compliance, and many practices to achieve efficient workflows. We all know he has a very strong attention to detail, professionalism, and knowledge, and it has had a very positive impact on all departments and a lot of projects in the city over his many years of service. So it says here the Public Works Department wants to thank Joe for his hard work. I think we all want to thank Joe for his hard work and dedication he's provided to us over the years. And we wish him and his family a long and happy and healthy retirement. So thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Years of institutional knowledge, and I know attended every planning board meeting. So outside of his normal hours, he was always checking in on that. So yeah, he will be missed, very missed. Any questions or comments? Councilor Johnston?
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize that my earlier comments were so well aligned. I knew he was retiring, but I didn't realize it was as soon as today. And again, just likewise, I think that Joe was the consummate professional. He was quiet, always in the background, but was responsible for so much that, you know, I don't think I realized it until I got as planning board liaison, but I always appreciated how detailed he was. I'd have side conversations with him, and he was always on top of everything, which I personally appreciate. And again, happy retirement. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to item 11, that is council discussion and comment. Any councilors wishing to speak? Okay, moving on to item 12, executive session. Is there a motion? Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Be it ordered that the City Council enter into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056A, Personnel Matters, City Administrator Search.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Roll call vote. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to enter executive session at 7:30. and we will be downstairs in the conference room. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Thank you. Is there a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
Motion made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Counselor Hatch. Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to exit executive session at 8:03 passes 7-0. Is there a report?
No report.
Thank you. Moving on to item 14, that is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Motion made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Roll call vote. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn at 8:04 passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow night.